Day 2, post-Exodus. As I write this first entry, I remain hidden in what is currently an abandoned public park. The echo of children's laughter seems so faint and distant from my memory now. As I attempt to think back, it seems like not so long ago the streets were littered with them. I haven't seen a single one for quite some time now. The smoke from every nuclear bomb landing in America doesn't make the sky as dark as a world without children can. I must be very delicate in my movements, for the slightest sound can draw much unwanted attention to the stray dogs that roam these streets. These previously domesticated dogs have returned to the natural hunting instinct that once ran through their blood. It is no longer safe here. It's a terrifying gesture to leave the house in which you grew up, but since the day before last marked the occasion at which my supplies had been exhausted, I figured that I had no other option. I had traveled to the local grocery as a last attempt to find any food, but my pessimism was not relieved. Shattered glass and empty shelves were all that was left of this once thriving store. I guess you get what you pay for. If only we lived in a world that didn't consume more than what was necessary to survive. It began with the start of urban sprawl and capitalism. As cities expanded, industrialization followed. Major corporations were manipulating people to buy and consume more through constant and inescapable advertising. What a greedy fucking world we lived in. Nevertheless, I'd never thought I'd live to see the day that I'd be competing for remaining scraps of food with a family of rats. I guess there's no time like the present to promote equal and fair distribution amongst all. Day 5, post-Exodus. The dark dust clouds hang in the sky above me, blocking out most sunlight struggling to get through. Once in a while, a beam of light will catch my face and warm not only my body, but also my theories on the fate of the world. Yet as quickly as the sun says hello, she abandons me, leaving my hopes crushed. These dust and chemical clouds are results of the launch of nuclear missiles sent off in every direction. These missiles were sent from continent to continent to fight for any water and oil that could be salvaged. The human species is an intelligent yet shameful one. How is it that we are incapable of discovering and sustaining a source of energy that was strong enough to power a city and safe enough to leave a minuscule environmental footprint? I guess the need to ensure a vigorous and prolonged future for the environment we occupy was kept on the back burner, no pun intended. I remember the air surrounding these local coal-burning factories was stale and thick, not unlike the air that inhabits this post-apocalyptic world I see before me. Once a country like Japan noticed how dependent their nation was on oil and natural fossil fuels, they became anxious. They decided that it was best to be prepared and self-sufficient when the threatening oil drought occurred. Mining for oil would soon transfer its attention to nuclear reactors. There would soon be 400 power-generating nuclear reactors in 30 countries. However, the fight for fossil fuels remained strong. Once the Cold War threats of the nuclear missiles were proven to be significant, the realization that thousands of deaths were in the hands of an opposed country provoked vengeance. After all, a nation is only as powerful as its defense, right? This set off a series of nuclear bombings and the initial foreshadowing of the return of primitive thought: kill or be killed. The earth is still, silent. Not a single bird can be heard for miles in every direction. I don't consider myself a religious person, but I'm suddenly reminded of a passage from the book of Revelation. A passage that had been told to me every Sunday afternoon by the nuns that ran the Sunday school I attended as a mere child. Look, he is coming with the clouds. Every eye will see him, and on this account, all the tribes of the earth will wail. So it is to be. Amen. Day 6, post-Exodus. On the move again. I've eaten the last of my supplies and I do not know how much longer I can last. My body is desperate for fresh water. I am traveling south and am on my way to the Great Lake Huron. At least there I am farther from the ruins of the city and closer to fresh water. That is, if there is any left for me. One question that continues to haunt my dreams is, how did the world fall to shit? The clearest answer I can provide is lack of population control. You see, if something grows at a constant speed and continues uninterrupted to flourish at this consistent rate, its quantity is inevitably going to double. No longer was there room to wander the great forest that resided behind my Nana's farm. Curiosity was a characteristic I possessed as a child that I still find difficult to rid of. But I guess the countless times that I'd become lost in the thick woods and spent the night in the bone-chilling atmosphere prepared me for this. A life of isolation. A life threatened by any and every force of nature. I just considered myself fortunate that I wasn't like the majority of kids my age. There wasn't an outlet in my back that the television plugged into. Then they tore down the trees. The engines roared and bore their teeth. The forest screamed in agony as the white birches, oaks, and other plant life was cut down and ripped out right from their roots. Wildlife of all sorts fled and left a place that became a land that was now so dark and hollow. Welcome to suburbia. Day 8, post-Exodus. Not so long ago, it was stated that the demand for space, land, water, forests, and resources would soon exceed the Earth's capacity to provide. If only we still existed in the era where we had the chance to change our future. How would the suffering we as a society experienced in the past few decades have been prevented? If a society is consuming less, fewer natural resources need to be consumed by corporations providing the goods and services. As the amount of manufactured goods is reduced, the pollution that industries output into the air, land, and bodies of water is also reduced. Thus, the land and water would not remain poisoned with endless toxins, and the atmosphere would not be suffocated with greenhouse gases. Unfortunately, we cannot travel back in time. However, at this point, it does feel like a gift to be able to still travel forward at all. Day 10, post-Exodus. After days of traveling and scavenging for food, I finally made it to Lake Huron. My feet are swollen and bleeding. My body is frail and meatless. Huron stands in front of me, covered by a thick layer of fog. As I took caution in approaching the shore, the fog began to clear. Unfortunately, my unusual optimism was not compensated as fish lingered dead on the surface of the water. I pictured them as cartoon drawings with little X's over their eyes. I laughed to myself and then broke down. I remember reading somewhere once that one of the keys to survival is to keep your wits about you. I seem to be having trouble with that. Once the nuclear bombs exploded, the initial impact of damage and death did not end the torture. No, this torture continues for at least 24,000 more years to come, until the plutonium-239 release becomes less toxic. This circulates within the atmosphere and forms into clouds, which then rains concentrated plutonium onto the soil and into the water. I stared down at my rippled reflection in the murky water, and instantly lost any hope I had left hidden deep inside me. How long can I continue to do this? How long can I continue to be alone? This is my last diary entry. I will die clinging on to the truth that I have finally come to learn over the many years of incomprehension. I will die on the beaches of Lake Huron, and die whichever way fate decides is best.